They're called us sticky bandit.
Challenge, shall we?
June 2023, Dubai. The heat is oppressive, a stifling 42 degrees Celsius that makes the air shimmer off the pavement. Watch these two men standing on the tarmac of the port. They have just flown 4,000 miles from London, enduring a 7-hour flight, not for a holiday, but for business. High-stakes business. The shipping container sitting in front of them represents 6 months of grueling nocturnal labor, their entire criminal infrastructure, and everything they have built. In approximately 30 seconds, they are going to crack the seal and swing those heavy metal doors open. When they do, their lives as they know them will effectively end. They just do not know it yet. To understand why this specific moment is about to destroy them, we need to rewind the clock. We need to go back to where this intricate web was spun, to a 29-year-old man from East London, who believed he had engineered the uncrackable code of car theft. His name was Wahed Yosef. Based in Ilford, East London, Wahed was not your typical smash-and-grab petty thief. He was an operator. Between December 2022 and May 2023, he ran a criminal enterprise that was terrifyingly efficient. Wahed had stumbled upon a realization that separates amateur thieves from professional syndicates. The sum of the parts is often worth far more than the whole. Most people look at a Range Rover or a luxury BMW sitting in a driveway and see a status symbol worth £80 or £100,000. Wahed looked at that same vehicle and saw an inventory list. He saw an engine block worth £8,000, a transmission worth £5,000, headlights, electronics, leather seats and body panels that, when separated, could fetch a fortune without the headache of trying to sell a traceable stolen vehicle. You see, selling a stolen luxury car is difficult. It has a vehicle identification number VIN, it has digital fingerprints, and it is hard to hide. But parts are anonymous. Parts are liquid cash. If you know where to sell them, you can make millions. Wahed built a system to exploit this gap in the market. And from a purely criminal standpoint, it was beautiful in its construction. He was not working alone. He recruited a specialized team. He had Mohammed Bukhari, 28, acting as the transporter, moving assets before anyone realized they were gone. He had Stanley Vanderberg, 25, handling logistics. And most importantly, he had a kill room, an industrial unit in Braintree, Essex. From the outside, the unit looked like any other mundane warehouse on an industrial estate. But inside, it was a fully equipped professional dismantling facility. Wahed hired skilled mechanics David, George and Rovers men who could strip a luxury SUV down to its skeleton in under 4 hours. This was not a chaotic chop shop. It was an assembly line in reverse. Engines out, doors off, wiring looms extracted. By the time the sun rose over Essex, a car that had been someone's pride and joy the night before was nothing more than a stack of components, ready to be wrapped, packed and shipped. It was precise, it was lucrative, and for 6 months it seemed absolutely perfect. Wahed truly believed he was untouchable. But perfection is a dangerous illusion, especially when you underestimate who is watching you from the shadows. The brilliance of Wahed's operation lay in its exploitation of convenience. We live in a world where we demand instant access. Press a button, the car starts. But this convenience creates a massive vulnerability known as the relay attack. It typically happens at 3:00 a.m. on quiet residential streets. A two-man team approaches a target house with a Range Rover sitting in the driveway. They do not need a crowbar. They do not need to break glass. They just need a device that costs about £100 online. One thief stands near the house, holding the amplifier. Inside, your keys are likely sitting on a hallway table, passively broadcasting a low-frequency signal. The device captures that weak signal, amplifies it, and flings it to the second thief standing next to the car. The vehicle is tricked into believing the key is right next to the door. The mirrors fold out, the locks disengage, and the engine roars to life. 30 seconds. That is all it takes to erase an £80,000 asset from your life. Once the vehicle was secured, Mohammed Bukhari would transport it to the Braintree facility. This is where the sheer scale of the operation becomes staggering. Over 6 months, they processed nearly £3 million worth of vehicles. That is more than 70 cars, meaning 70 families waking up to empty driveways and the violating feeling of being watched. But inside the warehouse, there was no sentimentality, only efficiency. The really high-value components, complete front ends, pristine engines and gearboxes were crated up for export. There is a massive grey market for European luxury parts in the Middle East, specifically for buyers who want the prestige of a Range Rover, but want to bypass steep import taxes on new vehicles. If you import the parts and reassemble the car, you save a fortune. Wahed was feeding this hunger, shipping container after container out of the UK. However, in the world of organized crime, you only have to be unlucky once. In May 2023, the flawless system developed a crack. A Land Rover was stolen from a driveway in Essex. Standard procedure followed, the car disappeared, the owner filed a claim, and the tracker went silent, likely jammed or removed. But then, weeks later, a digital ghost appeared. The tracker woke up. It pinged. The car was not moving. It was stationary, deep inside an industrial estate in Braintree. When Essex Police received that signal, their instinct and standard protocol would have been to raid the location immediately, kick down the doors, recover the stolen Land Rover, and arrest whoever was holding the wrench. But the detectives paused. They looked at the location and the layout of the industrial unit and suspected that this single ping was just the tip of an iceberg. If there was one stolen car there, how many more had passed through? Instead of a raid, they authorized a high-level surveillance operation. They deployed unmarked cars and long lens cameras. What they saw confirmed their darkest suspicions. This was not a storage unit for a single thief. It was a logistics hub. They watched vans arriving at odd hours, containers being loaded with military precision, and a hierarchy of workers coming and going. They identified Wahed as the boss, directing the flow of traffic. The police had found the nest, but they were not ready to strike. They wanted to burn the whole network down. And to do that, they needed to wait for the perfect trap. The discipline required for modern police surveillance is immense. For weeks, the officers watching the Braintree unit did nothing but observe. They watched their own cars, dashboards, drinking stale coffee, while Wahed Yosef's crew dismantled car after car right under their noses. It was agonizing, but it was necessary. Through this patience, they built a comprehensive network map. They knew that Mohammed Bukhari was the logistical artery, constantly moving vehicles. They knew Stanley Vanderberg was the scout, and they identified the mechanics inside David, George and Rovers who were effectively the butchers of this operation. The police were not just looking for a conviction, they were looking for total dismantling. They needed to prove where the money was coming from and where the parts were going. Then, the breakthrough happened. Surveillance teams watched as a large shipping container was backed up to the loading bay. Over several nights, under the cover of darkness, the gang loaded it to the brim. The police saw engines, transmissions and body panels, the dismembered remains of at least 7 high-value vehicles being stacked and secured. They watched the doors get sealed. They watched a freight company collect it. The container began its journey to a UK port, scheduled for a cargo ship bound for Dubai. This was the moment of truth. The police had a choice. They could have swooped in right then, seized the container at the dock, and arrested everyone. It would have been a solid bust. They would have recovered hundreds of thousands of pounds in evidence. But the lead investigators decided to do something unprecedented. They contacted the port authorities and issued a specific instruction. Intercept the container, but do not stop it. In a secure holding area at the port, officers cracked the seal. Inside, it was exactly as they suspected, a treasure trove of stolen property. There were parts from Range Rovers, Land Rovers and BMWs, with serial numbers still etched onto the metal, easily traceable to the theft reports. It was perfect evidence. The police photographed every inch of the interior. They documented the packing methods, the part types, and the manifest. They had enough to put Wahed away for years. But then, they made a move that elevated this case from a standard police procedural to psychological warfare. They ordered the container to be emptied. Every single engine, every door panel, every screw was removed. The evidence was logged and stored in police lockers. Then, they closed the empty steel doors, put a fresh seal on the lock, and authorized the container to be loaded onto the ship. For the next 2 weeks, an empty metal box sailed across the ocean. Meanwhile, back in Essex, Wahed and his team continued their business as usual, completely oblivious to the fact that their pipeline had been severed. They stole more cars, another Range Rover from Hertfordshire, another BMW from a driveway in London. They stripped them down, counting their future profits, convinced that the Dubai shipment was about to pay out. Wahed was likely calculating his cut, perhaps planning how to spend the money. The police allowed them this false sense of security. They let the criminals believe they were winning, knowing that with every passing day the container was getting closer to Dubai, and the trap was about to snap shut with devastating precision. June 2023. The container arrives in Dubai. 2 of Wahed's associates have flown in to meet it. It is 2 in the afternoon, 42 degrees Celsius. And the desert heat is relentless. They stand at the port, sweating in their designer clothes, watching heavy machinery lower their steel box into position. They are excited. This is payday. But 4,000 miles away, the sun has not even risen yet. It is 5:00 a.m. in the UK. While the Dubai team is checking paperwork, dozens of police officers across Essex, Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire are quietly surrounding 3 separate locations. They are checking their watches. The timing has to be absolute. If one person sends a warning text, the rats will scatter. In Dubai, the lock on the container is cut. The associates grab the heavy handles. In Ilford, an entry team stacks up outside Wahed Yosef's front door. In Dubai, the doors swing open, flooding the dark interior with blinding sunlight. In the UK, the battering rams hit. "Police, do not move!" screams through the hallways of Wahed's home. In Dubai, the 2 men stare into the container. They blink, confused. It is empty. Not just light completely. Hollowed out, empty. Imagine that sinking feeling. You have risked prison, flown across the world, and invested heavily in logistics, only to stare at a metal floor. Panic sets in instantly. They pull out their phones. They call Wahed, it goes to voicemail. They call Mohammed, voicemail. They call the warehouse, silence. 7 calls, 7 dead ends. Back in London, Wahed's phone is indeed ringing, but it is sitting on an evidence table while he is being read his rights in handcuffs. The silence from the UK is deafening. The Dubai team realizes, with a creeping horror, that the empty container was not a mistake, it was a message. They scramble to book the first flight back to London, terrified and confused, hoping to salvage something. But when they land at Heathrow and walk through customs, the Metropolitan Police are waiting at the arrivals gate. Game over? Fast forward to June 2024, Chelmsford Crown Court. The swagger is gone. All 8 defendants stand in the dock. The judge describes the operation as highly sophisticated, but the sentences reflect the severity of the crime. Wahed Yosef, the mastermind who thought he was untouchable, gets 6 years and 1 month. Mohammed Bukhari, the transporter, gets 4 years and 7 months. Stanley Vanderberg receives 4 years and 8 months. The mechanics David, George and Rivas receive between 3 and 4 years each. In total, the gang is handed over 36 years of prison time. But the brilliance of this case was not the sentences, it was the method. The police did not just catch them, they humiliated them. They let them fly to Dubai just to feel the crushing weight of a failure. It was psychological warfare designed to show that no matter how smart you think you are, the authorities are watching. For you watching this, the takeaway is simple. Car theft is at epidemic levels in the UK. 1 car stolen every 4 minutes. If you own a keyless entry car, spend £10 on a signal-blocking Faraday pouch. It is a cheap defense against a sophisticated attack. Do not let your driveway be the next target. If you think this police tactic was genius, or if you think it was overkill, let me know in the comments. Next time, we are looking at a Birmingham gang who tried to launder £3 million and failed even harder than this crew. Until then, lock your doors, protect your keys, and remember, if it feels like you are getting away with it, you are probably already caught.